Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com. This is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
John, so guess what we're going to talk about today?
The Catholic Church. Solar panels. No.
Windmills? I don't think so. Not
no
today.
way.
Surprises.
Okay.
I'm asking people, are they surprised at anything that happened yesterday? I have two surprises, and I'd like to hear yours. Number one, I am surprised at the magnitude of Ford's victory. Essentially, he's wiped out the opposition parties. For all intents and purposes, we really do not have an opposition party, certainly not one with hardly any support in this province. 82 or 83 seats, I don't know if they've decided yet. It's historic. In fact, Ford even said this is historic. So the magnitude, the size of the victory surprised me. I expected a majority government. This is what the polls have been saying for the past month, I guess. So I expected a majority government, but I thought it might be nip and tuck, whether it would be a majority or not. But, I mean, this is unbelievable. 82, 83 seats. I have never seen anything like this in my lifetime in this province. The other thing that surprised me and saddens me, and I think it probably surprised and saddens you, only 44% voter turnout. This is unacceptable. How the hell are we going to run democracy when almost 60% of the population can't get up off their asses to vote? I mean, look, I'm almost 86 years old. I got a broken hip. I'm not looking for sympathy here. I can barely walk. My wife and we voted. I don't care if they had to carry me in a stretcher. I'm going to vote. It's my responsibility, damn it all. And I don't understand how it is 56% of you couldn't be bothered to take part in democracy. You know, been bitching and whining about governments and pandemic and the economy and inflation and all the rest of it. You really cared a lot. I mean, 56% of you, I mean, obviously you don't give a sweet flying fox fart about the country, your neighborhood, yourself, or your children, or anything else. So I have a question. I'm sure that most of you listening voted, but very clearly a hell of a lot of your neighbors did not. So, I mean, okay, so this time we got 44%. So the next election, we got what? 39%. And then we get down to 25%. At what point does nobody bother to turn out and just anybody can declare themselves a dictator? I mean, folks, I yesterday or the day before, I asked the question, should we make voting in this province, in this country, mandatory? Well, we got to do something because we can't continue to run a democratic country if fewer than half the people bother to vote. You can't. John, what about you? Any surprises for you?
That was the big thing for me. I don't think I'm surprised by, a conservative win. I think we all saw that coming. Hell, I think even the opposition parties, what's left of them, saw that coming. I mean, Del Duca resigned, Horvath resigned. I mean, we saw this coming. You had unions moving away from the NDP party and supporting the Conservatives. I mean, no, this is not a surprise. I think the number of seats, I'm with you. I think that's a little higher than I would have put it. But the 44% voter turnout, that's kind of been what I've been ranting about on my Facebook today. I don't understand that. We've got a municipal election coming up in a little while. And if we're getting 44% provincially, when we've got the LRT on the line, the future home of the Sens, perhaps what to do with, LeBreton Flats, the LRT mess. I mean, what are we going to look at, for our municipal election? 30% voter turnout? I mean,
John, let me ask you this, John.
Scary,
you've been around a long time.
Thanks.
A keen observer. What do you think this is? This apathy? Do people just don't care? Are people prepared to accept anybody to run, to pass laws in this? I mean, what is it? Is it just people are too lazy? They don't care? I don't understand this. I mean, this is a democracy. It requires people to take part. This is all we ask of you every 4 years, is take an hour out of your day or half an hour and vote every 4 years.
I'm
What do you think it is, John?
The sense I'm getting is people just sort of feel no matter who they vote for, the people who are running are in it for themselves. And there doesn't seem to be anybody out there who is really getting through as, sort of a person of the people. It just, that's the sense I'm getting. And that's been the feedback on my Facebook today, is it doesn't matter who I vote for. They're all just greedy, selfish bastards. And they're not looking out for me. They're looking out for their own self-interest. So why would I bother to vote if that's going to be the inevitable outcome? So something needs to change in the language that we're hearing from people running for office. Clearly.
Well, but I just don't. So what you're saying is that almost 60% of the population of this province is just prepared to allow anybody to run them? I mean,
I don't think 60%, but certainly a good number of them, yeah.
Well, in this case, 56%, it's getting close to 60%. More than half the people in this province don't care who governs them. Is that what you're saying? I mean,
and you know what, Lowell? They've been feeling this way for so long that they are disengaged. They don't even know anything about Canadian politics anymore. I would love to get people on the air and actually, you and I, hit them up with some Canadian political facts and see if they can answer the questions. Do they even know what the different levels of government do?
Yeah, let me tell you. I'm obviously pleased with what happened as far as the votes go, but one of the things that really bugs me is we returned to power three people who played a major role in costing this country billions of dollars. Andrea Horwath, Joel Harden, John Fraser, all three elected to office. All three of those people fought tooth and nail against energy, against oil, against natural gas, against the Energy East pipeline. Let me just say this, John. If we were able to sell our oil to Europe today, if we had gone through with Energy East, for example, and finished the Trans Mountain, we would be rolling in money.
Yes, we would be.
We would be soaking up in money. We wouldn't know what to do with the cash. We could give everybody, we could build a 2-bedroom apartment for every homeless person. We could build 100 different brand new state-of-the-art hospitals if we could sell our oil to anybody but the Americans. And not only that, but if we were able to supply our oil to Europe, very clearly they could cut Russia off, and we all know how that would damage their war effort against Ukraine. So we returned to office three people who I hold largely responsible for depriving this country of tens of billions of dollars. Price of oil around $100 a barrel, almost a record high. If we were able to sell, the amount, we have the world's third largest deposits of oil and natural gas, and we can't sell to Europe. You know what? Today, we've got President Biden begging OPEC, that's Saudi Arabia, Iran, etc., to produce more oil. We are begging these dictatorships, these murderers, we are begging them to pump out more oil so that they can get richer and richer and richer. Well, we can't get. And Joel Harden, he's boasted about how he stopped Energy East. Andrea Horwath fought tooth and nail, and so did John Fraser. All of them rewarded with seats once again. Anyway, that's my rant today.
Big deal. They're going to be completely ineffectual because they're now part of. Together they couldn't even form a party. And have
no, I understand that, but nonetheless, we rewarded these people who, as I say, have helped to cost this country billions of dollars.
Yep.
Just think. I want listeners and viewers to think. If we were now able to sell oil and gas, natural gas, if we had gone ahead with liquefied natural gas plants, et cetera, we would be rolling in the money. We wouldn't know what to do with all of our money. We wouldn't have to worry about debt. We could give go to some of these Middle Eastern countries, Qatar. They're building huge buildings, and people are walking around with money falling out of their pockets. Well, that's folks. That's what people like Joel Harden did to us. All
See,
right.
but you know that, and I know that, and anybody listening and watching your show is well aware of that. But guess what? We apparently are in that 44% of the population who actually give a damn and get engaged and do a little homework. There is a huge, almost like you said, almost 60% of the population completely unaware and don't give a damn about this, Lowell. They just don't. And everywhere they look, it's not even being put in front of them.
They must know that they must understand that we can't sell our oil or natural gas to Europe.
I don't believe they
or
do.
Asia. How could they not? I mean, this has been well publicized
Because
for.
okay, where would they see that besides this show, Lowell? Where would they see that conversation happening?
It's been there's been editorial. There's been plenty of coverage of this. I mean, the fact that Joe Biden, for example, is begging Middle Eastern countries to pump out more. A lot of people commented on that. I think most people at least have a vague awareness of the fact that we can't sell our oil or gas because the bloody environmentalists stopped it.
Disagree.
The Joel Hardens of the world stopped it, and we rewarded him with another victory in Ottawa Center. Go, John. Let's anybody commenting on any of this?
Yep. Lots of comments, and we invite your calls, of course, your text as well, 613-413-2217.
So the overall question is, any surprises for you? What's any surprise? Are you surprised at the magnitude of the victory? Is surprised at the lower voter turnout? What surprises were you pleased? Go ahead, please.
All right, so that is the direct question that we are asking you today. What surprised you most? That is the question that Lowell is looking for a direct answer to. Meanwhile, your other comments are certainly welcome. David says people don't read. Terry says like anybody under 30 reads a newspaper or columnist. Carrie says if we vote for Catherine McKinney for mayor, Wellington will be stopped for vehicle traffic permanently. Eileen is on Facebook. She says that's why we need to get rid of the federal Liberal government. We could be a rich country. There are people out there who don't want to watch the news because it just upsets them.
Well, let's not blame the federal government. Okay? If people in Ottawa Center return Joel Harden, who is one of the major opponents to Energy East, if they think it's okay for us not to be able to sell oil and natural gas to Europe and cut off Russia, if they think that's acceptable, then blame them. Okay, blame the people who voted for Joel Harden, etc., and John Fraser. That's where the fault lies. Go ahead, please.
All right, Facebook.com/The Lowell Green, Facebook.com/Blast the Radio, and Facebook.com/Milkman Show. Your comments welcome there. Also on Twitch.tv/Blast the Radio and on YouTube. Ann says, I would bet that 60% of people don't watch any news or watch any news outlets, so naturally they're unaware of what is going on. Kim's on Facebook. She says, I do not live in Ontario, but the win did not surprise me. I called the majority win. What surprises me was the lower than low turnout. Drake says, no one cares anymore. Unfortunately, I think the people have lost faith in all of them. Let's go to text.
Let me ask everybody a question. Are you telling me that Bahamians care more about democracy and are better aware of what's going on than people in Ontario? The standard of education is much higher in Ontario than it is in the Bahamas. The average voter turnout in the Bahamas for almost any election is well over 90%. Here, we're at 44%. Are you telling me that the Bahamians are better informed, that they care more, that they pay more attention? Is that what you're saying? Because that's pretty disgusting.
Okay, so tell me something, because you spend a lot of time and you're using that as an example. How much influence from American television is there in the Bahamas?
Oh, that's pretty well all they have.
Okay, they're in a similar situation to us then. We're inundated with American media, and that's kind of what I was going to get at is I think most of, especially, people under 50, they couldn't tell you anything about who's running what part of our
But
government. They could tell you everything about what's happening in the United States, though.
yeah, except let's not blame the younger people. If only
Well,
40, if 56% of the voting population didn't turn out, then there were a hell of a lot of people over the age of 50 who couldn't get up off their ass either. Let's be honest.
all right, let's go to text 613-413-2217. Lowell, I'm not surprised Ford got a majority. Ontario usually votes the opposite of who's in power at the federal government. What bothers me is the public service in Ottawa continue to vote Liberal. I think if voters can vote online without prearranging it, like with a security code sent to them automatically, you would get more votes. I looked online when you mentioned you can vote online, but all options had to be prearranged, so I went in to vote.
Let me point out. My sister-in-law lives with us here. She voted. She voted by mail. She figured it out. She voted by mail. I mean, with people who say, "Oh well, hey, you can vote by mail. Very simple to do. You can vote online. You can go to the advance polls. If you're incapacitated, they will come to your home. They will come to your hospital. You've got If you're at work, they give you 4 hours off. I mean, stop with the bloody excuses. Holy suffering doodle cats. Go ahead, John.
Another thing I was up against, I didn't get my voter card until Tuesday.
Well, yeah, okay.
Oh, but I'm just saying, if I wanted to vote, ahead of time, how? If I'm only getting my card on Tuesday, so something's right. We're fired up today. Boy, oh boy. Long Point driver's watching on Twitch. She says, yeah, the low voter turnout seems really odd to me. Peter says 43% of people voted. Not a big difference between NDP Liberal Party vote-wise, but more seats for the NDP. Thank you. We knew that. Brian says, but federally, we didn't vote for an NDP Liberal coalition, so I can see people frustrated with the
I don't understand that. The NDP lost seats.
Provincially, he's talking federally.
Oh, okay.
So I think he's talking about.
I think he's talking about what people don't yesterday.
No, but I think and I'm putting words in his mouth, obviously, but the way I read that, he's talking about the distrust. Okay, you go and vote for somebody, and suddenly they're teaming up with the Liberals. Well, that's not what I voted for. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's how I read that. All right. Fran says the Conservatives voted. I was surprised at the magnitude of the Conservative win. I'm hoping it's a sign and hope for the future. Also, RE voting, I think it's a generational thing. Most of my generation care and vote. The younger ones don't really.
Well, I just want to repeat once again, if only 44% of people turned out to vote, then there's a lot of older people didn't vote either. You can't blame all of this on the young people. Okay, John.
Everyone says this when their party loses, says Stephen. I don't know what you're referring to there, Stephen. Wonder if they'll do a recount of votes today, says Christina. She's laughing at herself. I don't know why that's funny, but okay, carry on, entertain yourselves. Back to text, 613-413-2217. We invite your calls as well. This person says, it's sad. Why would any company invest in our energy sector when they will be given government red tape to get any project done? Potash projects are even slowed down due to red tape, and here we are. The world needs our minerals, and we can't help them. Damn.
Let me comment on that. I believe one of the reasons that Doug Ford was returned with such a majority is that he said, listen, we're going to get it done. We're going to build highways. We're going to build more hospitals. We're going to build a highway up to the Ring of Fire. Miners. So what he was saying is, we're going to go ahead. We're not going to listen to all of these people who are concerned only about the environment. We're worried about jobs. And I think that that's one of the strongest messages he got. People realize, you know what? We got to get ourselves up out of the doldrums here, and we're not going to do it by stopping building everything. We've already stopped building almost everything here, and as a consequence, we're in the pickle we are. Go ahead, John.
Okay, I'll grant you that he was returned to power based on that, but I will challenge you on this, and I will say, okay, how much of the people who showed up just felt that they had no other option and therefore voted for his government?
I have no idea, but at least they turned out. I would suggest that
Agreed.
If 44% of the people turned out, then they're pretty well aware of the and the major message that Doug Ford had was, we're going to get it done. We're going to do things. The other two parties said, we're not going to do things. Well, I think people realize we got to get moving here. We got to get our oil to market. We've got to get mining back again. We've got to start our manufacturing up again. People realize this, and but why only 44% would turn out to vote for that? I don't know. It's to me, the low voter turnout in Canada is one of the great puzzles of my lifetime. When I spend all the time in the Bahamas and see how engaged they are, I mean, many of these people have had very little schooling, but by God, they know the candidates, they know the issues, they're involved. Many of them are working. 90% turnout, sometimes more than that, in the Bahamas. And all we can do here is 44%. Go ahead, John.
So David's on Facebook. He says, I think if people realize that it was low, they would get 3 hours, or sorry, that if it was law, they could get 3 hours off work to vote, that they might actually do it. Okay, well, the way that works, though, you have, so if you're not scheduled till noon, but the polls open at 9, you don't get time off work to go and vote. You've got those 3 hours. If your work schedule, and like yesterday, we were open 9 to 9 to vote. So if your work schedule has you at work between 9 to 9, let's say you're doing security or you're a paramedic or something, your employer does have to afford you time, paid time, to go and vote when the polls are open. That's
so
how
what's the excuse then for not voting? If you don't want to take time off work, you can vote by mail. You can vote online. I mean, can I tell you something? I'll bet you more than 44% of the population buys things online from Amazon. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's apathy. It's apathy. People are fed up and they're disinterested and they're not showing up. Chris has a comment that is so long, Lowell. If I put it up on the screen, they won't be able to see you. He says, Lowell, I know you don't respect not voting, but I'll share I went in person and turned down my ballot. The Big Four failed to inspire confidence to me. Ford gives me the most, but he's done enough during his tenure to make it clear I don't want him any longer. He completely slashed autism services to literally nothing, he says.
No, he didn't. That's a lie. Go ahead.
Cancer blood screening is no longer covered. He's slashing from the wrong places. The other parties wanted to spend even more during the worst inflation of my lifetime. I don't see that doing us much good. And amongst independents,
Oh, you know what? I don't want to hear anymore. Okay, you didn't vote. Okay, fine. You know what? I'm not gonna pay any attention to you then.
No, he at least showed up. He showed up and he declined his ballot.
Wow. So he says. If you didn't vote, you don't have a right to, as far as I'm concerned. Don't bitch. No complaining. Okay. We'll keep your record here. You didn't vote. I'm not listening to any of your complaints. Go ahead.
All right. Susan's on Facebook. We got to get a word in for Shields. We'll get to Susan here first.
Yeah. Okay.
I walked to the Catholic Church to vote. Actually, it was the hall. Said a prayer while I was there. Voted and met a lot of seniors and young couples. Glad the way it turned out. Get her done, she says. All right. Let's get a word in for Shields, Lowell.
Well, the people up in Pakenham used some common sense. I don't know what the voter turnout was there, but I bet you it was. I bet you it was better than 44% because people in Pakenham and in that riding, they have a much better, I think, grasp of the situation. So which brings me to Shields because they're in Pakenham, but it's a reflection. I have no idea how they vote. But I'll bet you any money that everybody at Shields turned out to vote. I know them, and I know that they care. And I'm supposed to be doing a commercial here for them. But you know what? When you're doing a commercial, actually, sure, you're trying to sell the product, but it's okay. Almost everybody who's got appliances got the same product. But it does matter who is selling, who you're dealing with. And when you're dealing with Shields, you're dealing with good people, honest people, people engaged in the community, understand the community, understand your needs. That's that. Everybody, you can buy appliances from almost everybody, but if you're concerned about the service, concerned about keeping the money locally, Shields, folks, shields.ca. Go ahead, John.
And you know what I just found out because I follow them on Facebook? Shields actually offers parts and service as well. And my the reason I'm impressed by that, my dryer heating element is gone. So I'm making a call to Shields this afternoon because I didn't know that they do parts. So there you go.
Well, thank you. That commercial idea has got to be one of the strangest commercials ever done for anybody in the history of this province. Go ahead, John.
I want to go back to the old days in production and we'll do take two on that. Ann says, when I saw he got a resounding majority last night, tuning in later last night, quite frankly, I was really relieved and delighted. Chris is back to say, Lowell, I have an autistic son. Ford no longer covers services. Call it BS. I know what coverage I have. All right, let's go to text. Barry is in.
Simply not true. You're an NDPer and you're not telling the truth. Go ahead.
Okay.
Well, now wait a minute. Hold it. It depends on the circumstances. I'll take that back. Depends on the age. Okay, I'll take that back. But I'm gonna. The fact of the matter is that overall, he's increased spending for autism. Go ahead.
All right. Over to Barry by text 613-413-2217. He says, when people see pathetic politicians, they become apathetic about voting. A lot of people are so into their own little world, they don't watch the news. They are lost to the world politics and world affairs.
Yeah, except you know what? Here is a guy, whether you like Doug Ford or not, here is a guy who cared so much that remember at the outset of the pandemic, Trudeau forgot to order, so we were the one of the last nations on earth to get vaccines, right? Remember when they finally some vaccines arrived at the airport in Toronto, and Doug Ford showed up, and he didn't tell anybody he was going. Somebody just happened to see him by accident. He showed up himself with his truck and got the vaccines himself and brought them in. So don't tell me that all of the politicians don't care. Anybody that's going to get up and go out and do what he did, bring these vaccines, et cetera, to speed things up. He obviously. So don't give me that bullshit. Go ahead.
Nope, I will accept that. That's a good argument. And you know what? My memory's short on that. Of course, because you don't see those things too, right? So you need to be reminded of them every now and then.
Yeah.
Back to text, 613-413-2217. Yes, as mentioned, the other options to vote require prearranged means. I would like to see a code sent to people to use whenever they want to vote. Maybe Bahamians have more need for government help. Canadians feel well off enough that they don't care about government. Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. If you vote NDP, you want the government to do everything for you. So, I mean, I remember canvassing in Ottawa Centre, and I realized it was a lost cause. The people who vote NDP, all they want to do is, what's the government going to do for me? They demand pure white snow in the winter and absolute pure green grass in the summer. Go ahead, please. And the government's got to do it.
To Facebook. And I don't know if the low turnout is laziness or selfishness. Peter says, need civics taught in school right from grade 5 and above.
Good point. Thank you.
Gregory is, I'm hearing from people who feel the election results are fixed and their vote is worthless. Therefore, they don't show up. We've got a call coming in, Lowell. I haven't had a chance to screen it. You feel like...
No, it's probably that kook. Go ahead. You can screen it.
Oh, I'm sorry. To that person, please call back. I didn't get a chance to screen you. I will do that. David says, Alberta PST, free province. Imagine every province tax-free. I don't know what that has to do with anything. Sean is on Facebook. Lowell, most people cannot tell you which level of government is responsible for what. Sean, I agree with you. I would love to put that to the test. I really would.
Well, I think, the person who said we need to teach some civics in class is absolutely right.
Yep.
I don't know how much civics, if any, is taught anymore. But I
Well,
suspect it's very little.
So I don't know either because I'm not a parent, but I know that Julie is. And so her comment on Twitch moments ago was this. You hit it on the nose, John. They are not educated. I have a 22-year-old that we've had to teach basic civics to. Who is who in politics? This is scary. And if they don't know and don't understand, they're not going to vote.
I have a granddaughter who's just graduated from Algonquin. And she tells me that for 2 years, now this was in Quebec, for 2 years, the only history and civics she got was how terrible Canada was with the residential schools.
I believe that.
That was taught in the history. It was taught in 2 or 3 of the classes. Even in English literature, it was all about native writing. So that's one experience. Go ahead.
David just posted on Facebook moments ago. He wanted to vote by mail. My week-long internet outage prevented me from sending my ID. My cell phone wouldn't let me do it, so I voted in person. Good for you.
Good. Good for you. Good for
Nancy says, what surprised me was the
You're my hero.
Yeah, there you go. Your Lowell's hero of the day. We're going to send you a sticker. You can put it on your fridge.
Yeah.
Nancy says, what surprised me was the address they put on the voting paper was the address of the church, but not the address of the voting poll station. Interesting. 40% was pathetic, says Eileen. Maybe they should make this mandatory. And is also on the record to say, on the topic of the other day, I would like to make a point that if we did that, there would never again be a conservative government in this country. Look at the demographics of how young people are. I think she's talking about mandatory voting.
Mandatory.
Yep. Peter says, we are a country who doesn't like to see profit in business, only spending and taxing. We should be pumping oil and gas, but with more money, Trudeau would only spend it on more crap like he does now. Erlene says, we sure taught at South Carlton High School back in the 60s. All right. Clarity on my comment, says David. Alberta sells oil to subsidize taxes. Ontario can do the same with the Ring of Fire and other resources. So that was the comment on provincial taxes.
Yeah, I was very interested. I'm very interested in the Ring of Fire. I know a couple of people who live up in there, and the potential to various kinds of minerals is immense. And governments, including past conservative governments, have just, they've just marked time on this. They've got to get a road up there in order to open it up. Yesterday, in his acceptance speech, Doug Ford reiterated and said, we're going to get that road through to the Ring of Fire. I'm going to tell you, folks, if you want this province of Ontario to start booming, open a road to the Ring of Fire, start mining some of those, and you know what? We'll have enough money to handle a lot of the social requirements that we need. Go ahead, John.
We got one more comment. We'll wrap the show up. It is 2:30 for us here. By the way, the podcast is also available. Just ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. You can get caught up on past episodes at lowellgreen.com as well. Last word to you, Anne. She says, I really hope Ford government proceeds with the Ring of Fire. Very important for economic recovery in Ontario.
Just think, if we could get the Ring of Fire going, get mining up there for all of those minerals, some of which are needed for car batteries, our new electric cars. If we could get our natural gas off to Europe, oil and gas off to Europe and Asia, that we would be, folks, we should be rolling in money. We've got the resources that the world wants, the world needs, the world is prepared to pay through the nose for. We can't get it to them. It's like you bake 100 pies. You've got everybody out there wants to buy a pie, but your husband won't let you sell them. Thank you. Thank you. We'll be back tomorrow. No, actually, we'll be back Monday.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. This is a production of blasttheradio.com.